So what's this again? Sorry, I've already forgot.
Video, it's going to go online, Grandad.
On
On the internet.
what is it? The
World Wide Web.
YouTube. Hi!
Just calm down. You need to just calm down. Hi! Today we thought we would film a video. There's a few videos I really want to film with Drew because we both suffer with mental health problems and we're in a relationship. That comes with a lot of difficult times. A lot of difficulties between us, a lot of difficulties individually, and I think it's really important that we share stuff about that. Especially because we do love each other and we want to make a relationship work, but it's hard sometimes because we both have mental health problems. Today though, we're not talking about that. We're going to talk about our first date together, which was about 2 years ago. We met on Tinder, and so we met on Tinder in like the March, and we had our first date in the April. And like I said, we both have mental health problems. I suffer with, at the time especially, very severe anxiety and OCD and emetophobia, and those illnesses you weren't familiar with.
No.
Although you knew mental health and all the rest of it, and you suffer with depression and social anxiety.
Yeah. In the regard of kind of not knowing the other person, it can be really difficult to, especially when you're kind of dealing with your own stuff.
And with you, like, you weren't totally aware of mental health, really.
No, yeah. I mean, I was never really given an opportunity to. You know, we were taught to kind of. I was kind of taught to kind of bury it, worry about it another day, move on.
So
but yeah,
you knew that you weren't feeling great, but you didn't really have a name for what you felt.
well, yeah, I had no idea what was going on. I thought it was just the victim of a really kind of crappy life in a way. Obviously, being young as well, you feel like everything's kind of beating you up. But yeah, now it's much easier. Then it's, I think obviously like most people will tell you, talking about it's half the battle, but I never had much opportunity to talk.
So, moving on from that, we're talking about our first date, and let's take you right back to the beginning. So, the beginning for me is, I was on Tinder, I was swiping away, having a jolly old time, just loving life.
Yeah.
And then I saw Drew's photo, and I've told you before.
Yeah.
I was like, as soon as I saw Drew's photo, I was like, I know for a fact that something's going to happen between us. And I'd never felt like that with anyone else's photo, and that's really cringy and horrible. But like, I was just like, I know something's going to happen, so there's no point in me even swiping because I know that we're going to get together. But I swiped right, and then we started chatting a bit on Tinder, and then I remember asking for your number. And then putting your number into Facebook to make sure it was definitely
Me.
you. Because I was like, this
Never
guy
knew
seems
that.
really nice, and like I just felt like it was like not true.
Never knew that. That's so
I put your number into Facebook, and then I found your page, and then I saw that you'd shared something about crocodile safety, or not crocodile safety, like saving crocodiles.
I actually remember this. Yeah, it was the Lacoste kind of symbols, yeah, and they swapped it around to make it all marine life. Yeah, it was amazing.
So do you remember seeing my profile on Tinder?
Yeah, and I remember looking at your brother because the profile photo was of you and your brother.
We both had the same Tinder photo.
And I was just like, who is this man?
You didn't know that was my brother?
No, I had no idea, yeah, but obviously, yeah, learned to love him.
And so we talked for a while on WhatsApp.
Yep.
And I still like looking back to the WhatsApp messages because it's so sweet.
Yeah, because I got a new phone recently.
Oh yeah, we don't have them anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame.
Nah.
Oh well, so we talked on WhatsApp for a while, and I remember like just being really like giddy and like talking to you, and then being like, oh, I'm really nervous. But like I said, I've spoken in videos before about how I was speaking to, like, I spoke to different guys on Tinder, and I would always be very honest about mental health, and a lot of the time guys would be like, oh yeah, I understand that. Then they'd be like, why can't you just meet me in town, or whatever. They would just say they understood and they didn't, or they would just straight up be like, not interested. And then I remember saying to you, I have panic disorder, which means I might need to, when we go on a first date, I might need to leave, and if I leave, it's not because of you. I might actually really like you, but I might need to leave. And you were like, cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, having gone through these kind of spells yourself, you're always going to understand that. Because I was the exact same on Tinder, you know, I was straight away looking for a relationship. I'm not built for one night stands.
No.
I'm really not built for that. But
Each to your own, but...
no, of course, yeah, definitely. But I remember being on Tinder and it was the same. I spoke to a few girls and they were really kind of abrupt around.
Sex.
No, just not even the obvious, but just like abrupt in nature. So with me with social anxiety, when I walk past someone on the street, all it takes is a quick glance and I'm like, they hate me. They absolutely hate me. Whereas Tinder is, or just over text, which is a completely different conversation, but you know, it's hard to read what people are actually like. But you know, it was just, for me, it wasn't enjoyable until I started talking to you.
Do you remember, because there would be times where like I remember being like really desperate for you to text me and then you would text me for a while.
That's actually, I don't think I've actually told you this. So I don't know if anybody else is the same, but I have a tactic. Right? It sounds really bad and it sounds really cheap, but it was a tactic solely for me. And I've never shared this kind of tactic with my friends or anything. Tactic, I keep using tactic. But I have a thing where if I see a text that I like from a person that I really, really like, I'll instantly be like, right, wait 5 minutes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just
You
wait
don't want to
5
seem too
minutes.
keen.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to seem desperate and etc etc. So I was just like, every time that you would text me, I'd be like, right, wait 5 minutes.
See,
Go
I
for a
bet so many
cigarette,
people
come
do
back.
that, but then they
Yeah.
just don't admit to that.
No, of course, but it is
I
really
think I
common.
probably did the same.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I still do sometimes.
Do you remember
Hold my hands
when
out.
I sent you my YouTube videos?
Yeah, yeah.
What did you think?
You probably won't believe me, but the like I had no idea that Emily was on YouTube, and the day that you kind of told me you were, I'm pretty sure I found you more than anything. I can't quite remember the details of, but I honestly for about an hour or two just sat and watched a ton of them because obviously I'd never met you in person as well. So I was like, oh, I wonder what our mannerisms are like, etc.
What
etc.
our voice sounds
Yeah,
like.
exactly. Because I was just too scared to pick up the phone. You remember that as well. But yeah, it was like an icebreaker in itself. I was kind of ready when it came to the first date. But
Whereas I didn't have that. So moving on to the first date, I didn't have that. I was absolutely shitting myself because I just moved into a flat by myself. I had been texting you, and then I think there'd been a couple of times we were going to meet up, then I didn't feel well, you were busy, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I remember the day came and you were like, hey, do you still want to meet up? And I was like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, fuck. Fuck. Like, I can't do this. Like, I was like, there's no way I can do this. And at this point, I had really severe OCD and agoraphobia, and so leaving my house to go somewhere else was really difficult. So I met Drew outside my work at the time, so that it was really, really comfortable for me, and I knew my friends were working inside, so if I was ever feeling really anxious, I could go inside and get them to help me, phone my parents or whatever it was. But I remember I left my house and the whole day I wasn't able to eat anything at all. I felt so sick. I was on the toilet for ages, left the house, and I remember walking along being like, shit, like I can't do this. And there was, obviously on the way to meet you, there were so many side streets to go up, and every single time I passed a side street I was like, I'm just going to go up here and then run. Like, I just felt there was just no way I could meet you at all. I was like, I just can't do this. I really can't do this. But then you just put one foot in front of the other and you just keep moving on. You just keep walking. And then eventually you're at the place where you're meant to meet. And then I was getting texts from you like, oh hey, like I'm turning this way, or like, oh hey, I'm here. And I was like, oh my god. Oh my god.
So with me, it was the exact same, but I didn't have the choice of walking. So I was on the bus, up the very back of a bus, a public bus with, I actually remember it was a Jack Daniels and Coke can. Because the only thing at the time that because I didn't know I did and I didn't know that I had mental health issues, so I wasn't taking anything for it really.
So you just thought you were nervous?
I was just, not so much nervous, I knew I was anxious, I just didn't have anything in place to help me with that. But I was sitting up the back and I was like, right, okay, a nice wee can of booze will help me just kind of cool the nerves and stuff. And I was a mess. I was texting all my friends and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. It was, in fact, the first date I've ever been on, period. Like, I've never been on a date.
Another story.
But yeah, it's, to me, it was the exact same, just, you know, like, I remember just getting off the bus and I was there before you had turned up, and I was sitting on the wall outside the bus stop, or just
Were you
next
like
to the
looking
bus
out for
stop,
me?
and I was terrified. Like, I was so scared when, like, cars were driving past and stuff. You know, like, any little noise, I was just like, oh my
You're,
god,
like,
I was
so
just
on edge.
so on edge, yeah.
Do you remember seeing me walk towards you?
Yeah, yeah. It's so vivid in my head. Like, I can remember it so well. And you turned up with a scarf, a big massive scarf, and you were covered in white paint because you just got, it was the hallway.
The
that just
hallway
got
was getting painted,
yeah.
and I walked in it, and I was
And
covered in paint.
it was the first thing you said to me. You were like, sorry, I'm covered in white paint. And I was like, it's no problem, I'm having a panic attack inside, you know. But yeah,
I remember
definitely nerves.
we met up on a bench, just like chatted, and then the one thing I wanted to say right now was we met up on a bench, chatted for a while, parted ways, texted for a while, decided to go for a second date, and the second date's just as nerve-wracking as the first. In fact, the first 5 dates are really, really nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I think for me it was, the first date was ripping off the kind of the band-aid, whereas the second and so forth onwards
Was like deepening the conversation.
It was just putting salt on the wound, really. Not in a bad way, that sounds like
Nice.
you were to blame, but in terms of my mental health.
It was like, it was definitely just as nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But I wanted to maybe give some pointers on what helped.
Oh yeah.
One thing that definitely helped me was explaining before I met you that I had mental health problems, because I think when you give yourself an exit plan, and you don't have to tell the person you're meeting for a first date, you don't have to tell them, as long as you have a exit plan in your own head. That's the most important thing. For me, it really helped telling Drew that I have panic attacks, because it meant that I knew that he was comfortable and okay with me leaving. So that made the whole situation much easier for me.
Yeah.
Although if you don't feel comfortable telling somebody that you don't know very well about your mental health, then that's also fine. As long as you have maybe your friend on speed dial, or your parents nearby, or whatever it is that makes you feel more comfortable. Another thing is, you definitely don't have to meet the person halfway, or you don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with ever. Like, I knew my boundaries, and there was no way I was swaying from those boundaries for anybody. And that's really important, that you go in with like that kind of high self-worth and knowing your boundaries and what you need. And if the other person isn't fit to meet those boundaries, doesn't want to meet those boundaries, then
It's not meant to be.
it's not meant to be.
Probably, for me, in my perspective, don't do what I did. don't rely on booze to calm your nerves.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think I completely agree. I think honesty is key. If you're honest with each other from the get-go, you're gonna you at least have a good first date. And I think for me, knowing that you weren't entirely comfortable, knowing that I wasn't entirely comfortable, just having these conversations, it's half the battle, for me anyway. And I think in terms of, if you're gonna do it, don't put pressure on yourself that you have to do it.
Yeah.
There's no way that you have to do anything. If you really like the other person, simply just tell them that you can't do it. You there's too much going on in your head, etc.
I genuinely believe if it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
Yeah.
I 100% believe that. And if you're meant to meet up, then you'll meet up the next week or the next day or whatever. And if it's meant to be, they'll understand and they'll be fine. And if you really, really like that person and they're not understanding, maybe try and help them understand. Maybe get them to watch some of these videos, or send them articles on what you're suffering with, or just explain to them. And I think as well, you don't need to give up on somebody straight away if they don't understand straight away. Sometimes you need to give somebody a little bit more time to fully understand what you're going through. But I think at the end of the day, if you're trying really hard for them to understand you and they're not, I think you need to know when to call it a day.
Yeah, there's definitely a limit. Don't feel as if you have to do that for the rest of the relationship or whatever it may turn into be.
You're always the most important person.
Yeah, look out for yourself, 1,000,000%. It's not something I did, and
You've learned to do that.
I've learned to do that, but it was very apparent that I wasn't doing that at the start of the relationship. You know, the fact that it took us how many dates before we first kissed, and I was just a nervous wreck.
Well, that's the other thing is, that was my tip, is to do things that are a bit different. So I remember on our third date we had a bonfire.
Yeah.
And that was so nice
just
because
totally spontaneous.
we were
as
like,
well.
shall we have a bonfire? And we went round where we both live now, and looked for wood, and then went down to the beach and had a bonfire. And it was just something to break the ice. It was something to like build the bonfire together and all that kind of stuff. And
you're busy whilst you're enjoying yourself.
Yeah, it takes some pressure off. Like things like I've heard of friends going trampolining with their first date and stuff.
Yeah.
Just things that make it if you go somewhere like for dinner or something for the first date, that's going to be really nerve wracking if you don't have anxiety.
No, of course. I would never have been able to do that. I have a massive fear, or not fear, but just uncomfort of eating in public
Generally.
or with people or whatever, especially because I have a beard that ends up everywhere. Like, you don't have to do typical dates.
And if someone asks you, if you're in a situation where somebody's like, hey, and you've talked to this person for ages and you really like them and they ask you to go on a date and they ask you to go for dinner, it's okay to say, can we go for a walk on the beach? Can we go for a coffee instead? Can we blah 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 blah? It's not you turning them down, it's you just suggesting something that makes them feel more comfortable.
Yeah, at the end of the day there's two of you, not one of you. So it's a joint decision, and once again it sways right back to what you were saying earlier on. If it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. If they're unwilling to compromise, etc., that's not your fault. That's just their preference. So honestly, just be honest with yourself, be honest with the other person, and more importantly, just keep yourself safe.
And yeah, absolutely, you really do need to be careful. But I think the number one thing that we both agree on is the number one most important thing is to look after yourself first, especially when you don't know the other person really that well. You have to look after your own mental health. And if you realise that actually being on dating apps and stuff isn't good for your mental health, then come off them for a while. Go back in a month, go back in 6 months. Just as long as you are being respectful to yourself and understand yourself.
Yeah, you know, with you just saying look after yourself, we had a moment before our first date where I disappeared for, what was it, like 2 months or something? Oh, right.
We met in March.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah, that makes more sense. But it was the exact same, I was crumbling. I had no touch on earth whatsoever, I was just falling into a weird hole. But, you know, Emily was 100% understandable about that. And I think, you know, once that kind of settled down, it was at that moment that I realised, you know what, this person actually wants to see me. They're not just trying for the best bits. Yeah, they want everything. They want the whole package. So it's a hard thing to come to grips with.
Also, if that happens, a little tip on if that happens is, Drew kind of slipped off the thing, but I knew, and sometimes you just have the intuition. I knew that we were meant to meet, and I didn't know if that would turn into a relationship or
either
friends or whatever, but I just knew that we were meant to meet. And so I gave you like a week and didn't speak to you, and then I messaged you like, I think just being like, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
And then,
and it was, once again, you know, you're honest with each other, and I was honest at the time. I explained exactly what I was going through. Mostly it was more a cry for help. Or not a cry for help, but just more asking somebody to understand in a way. For me, in that scenario, as soon as I saw that, it was the most amazing thing. When you're in that kind of mindset and somebody asks if you're okay, it goes so far.
Especially somebody you don't know but that you fancy.
Exactly, yeah, like it was, I was very fortunate with that.
That's generally our first date story. You can date when you have mental health problems, it just might look a bit different than other people. Like, absolutely don't think that because you're agoraphobic, because you've got emetophobia, because you've got severe anxiety, depression, don't think that means that you can't date. You might not date in the same way your friends date, by being able to be a bit more free and whatever, but you still can date. Honestly, it's absolutely mental to tell the Emily that was about to go on her first date that she'd be in a 2-year relationship and everything would be good.
Making videos on YouTube with said person. Whilst the said person is slowly having a panic attack inside.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I couldn't have guessed at all that this would
No.
be where we are now.
And
It's
Tinder can
crazy.
work.
Yeah, in the positive.
We want to film more videos that you want to see relationship wise. If there's anything that you want to know about mental health and relationships, or relationships in general, or whatever, then we'd be happy to film that. Just leave a comment down below, and if you don't feel comfortable leaving a comment, then you can private message me on Instagram, and you don't have anyone else to see that. It'll just be me that sees that. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, jeez. I know, that was really cringy. Oh.